Hey, from New Jersey, it's the SNL Nerds, a show where two comics from New Jersey nerd out about Saturday Night Live. I'm your co-host, Darren Patterson.
And I'm your co-host, John Trumbull.
John Trumbull, happy summer, sir.
Happy summer. How's it going? How's the last week of your life been, Darren Patterson?
It's been all right, same old, little hot, little warm. As the summer months roll by, I sweat easy, so this is a hellish time for me and myself as my pits and my back just get sopped from my own sweat.
Okay, well, thank you for that mental image.
Oh, no worries, man. No, isn't that what you asked me?
Not really, no, but
well, that's what I'm given.
Yeah.
And how about you? How's things going in Trumbleland?
I mean, I'm not perspiring as much as you, it sounds like. So
lucky.
I got that going for me, I guess.
All right, way to brag.
Yeah.
Look at me. I don't sweat. La-di-da.
I mean, no, I sweat. I'm in a room without air conditioning right now, but I got the window open, so it ain't too bad.
Okay, well.
So.
All right, well, la-di-da. Look at you.
Yeah.
All ready for this summer, because now that SNL is off the air.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not off the air, but off for the summer.
Yeah, on the summer hiatus.
Yeah, this is the time where we kind of kick back and do a little summer movie retrospective, as it were.
And now is the time my sprockets when we dance. Yes.
Yes. Do.
Yeah.
That's the song they do on the sketch.
That is. Yeah. I wonder if that movie would have been ever any good if Mike Myers had gotten it off the ground. I think that was one that he killed because he didn't think the script was up to his standards.
Yeah, I think from what I remember, yeah, that sounds about right.
Which is kind of scary because the man did The Cat in the Hat and The Love Guru.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes you wonder.
Oh, well, I remember. I think I saw The Cat in the Hat in a theater, and I was baffled by just how. I don't know what he was going for.
Honestly, I really shouldn't, in good conscience, bash those movies because I haven't seen either one in full.
There was one scene I still remember where he was goofing around in a garden, and he actually stepped on a garden hoe.
Yeah.
And he picks it up and he calls it a dirty hoe.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that.
Yeah, and I was like, this movie's for kids, right?
Yeah, he's trying to get the crap under the radar, I guess.
Yeah, I was like I'm not not squeamish, but prudish at all. But I was like, oh, I don't know if I approve of that. My heavens.
Yeah, you were fanning yourself like you were in church.
Oh, my stars and garters.
Yes.
But
and now I'm just thinking about Hank McCoy.
Of course, I knew you'd get that reference. I knew it.
Yeah, no, that's the only place I've ever heard that phrase is in Avengers comics.
Nice, my man. If I said that around any Joe off the street,
right,
they'll be like, "What the fuck you talking about?"
Right.
I say that around John Trumbull, he knows exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, no, that's the Beast catchphrase that I think Steve Englehart gave that to him when he was writing either the Beast's solo feature in Amazing Adventures in the early 70s, or maybe he introduced it when he was writing the Avengers, somewhere around 140, 150, somewhere in that era. I think that's when that started. I don't know.
Wow,
that's just off the top of my head. I haven't gotten to do a deep dive research into it.
Wow,
I was unprepared for this.
Well, it doesn't sound like it. Sounds like we set this whole thing up. To our listeners, it was like, oh, he's gonna set something up to have Trumbull go off on some beast shit. Go into beast mode.
Nope. This is how deep my geekery runs. Comics historian, baby.
Off the top of the dome.
I've been paid money to know shit like this.
Yes. And but yeah, so this is summer where we do movies. So today we're going to talk about a movie that we've actually kind of been talking about doing for a little bit, just kind of been kicking around.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're doing Tootsie.
We're doing Tootsie, and what finally gave us the kick in the pants to do this one was for a sad reason, because the great Dabney Coleman just passed away recently, just a few weeks ago as we're recording this, and he has I'd say a prominent supporting role in this, and the history of Dabney Coleman in this movie is kind of interesting too. I found out a little about this because didn't have this readily available on streaming, so I went and borrowed it from my local library, and I got the Criterion
Oh,
collection
that
edition.
da 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 da
Yeah,
da.
and Criterion, they got all the special features and stuff up the wazoo. So I got to watch two behind the scenes featurettes about the making of this movie.
Oh my stars.
Yes, and garters.
And garters, yes.
And speaking of garters, so it's a movie about cross dressing people,
It is, it is.
or more accurately, it's a movie about a guy in drag.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
that
Uh,
probably puts it better.
yeah. So, Tootsie, directed by the great Sidney Pollack, late great
Hmm.
Sidney Pollack. Screenplay by Larry Gelbart and Murray Schliskel.
Schliskel,
Schliskel.
yeah,
Oof.
they're the credited writers. The history of the writing on this movie is wild.
Okay. Well, we got to hear this. Well,
There
so
were a ton of writers.
okay. Well, the movie came out. There was a Christmas movie. Came out December 17th, 1982.
Mhm.
Had a budget of 21 mil, and it made $241 million. This I remember this movie being a pretty big deal.
It was a big hit. Yeah, yeah. This really caught the public's fancy. I found over on Letterbox. I found there's one user on Letterbox who's goes by not Pauline Kael, and I think he just prints excerpts of what Pauline Kael had to say about various movies. And so this sums it up pretty well, I think.
Okay.
It says Tootsie began with Don McGuire, who wrote what is said to have been a wild screenplay. After it was sold and Dick Richards was set to be the director, Robert Kaufman was hired to do a new draft. When Dustin Hoffman read Kaufman's version, he agreed to play in the picture, and he brought in his playwright pal, Murray Schlegel, with whom he had once tried to concoct a movie about a man impersonating a woman, to rework the material. Then the
Okay.
director, Dick Richards, was replaced by Hal Ashby, and Larry Gelbart was hired for yet another version. After that, Hal Ashby was replaced by Sidney Pollack, and Elaine May, who chose to be anonymous, was signed to do a rewrite. After her came the team of Barry Levinson and Valerie Curtin, and
Oh,
after them, Robert Garland. And with some of these people doing more than one draft, when the screenplay had to be submitted to the Writers Guild for arbitration over the issue of who should get the screen credit, three large cardboard boxes were needed to transport more than 20 scripts.
Jesus. For
Yeah,
Tootsie?
yeah, yeah. And I mean, amazingly, it doesn't really feel like a patchwork script, but apparently that's kind of what it was.
Oh,
Um, and
yeah.
it went into arbitration, which is when somebody looks at all the scripts that have been generated, and then they decide, okay, who's contributed the most to what this movie became, and they decided to give screen credit to Larry Gelbart and Murray Schlegel.
Okay.
But I mean, some huge names not credited on the screen, like Elaine May and Barry Levinson. I mean, my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, no, when you mentioned those, I was like, I know those people.
Yeah, yeah. And I was watching a behind the scenes thing, and Dustin Hoffman was raving about this one scene that he loved, and apparently Sidney Pollack wasn't nuts about, where
Oh,
um, where uh, Dustin Hoffman, as in character as his female persona, Dorothy Michaels, comes over to Jessica Lange's apartment, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm not feeling good. I'm just having such a heavy flow this month." And Michael Dorsey has no idea what she's talking about. He's never, because he doesn't talk with women about their periods.
of course, of course.
And he's trying to fake his way through the conversation. And she's like, "Have you ever had such a heavy flow? How long did it last?" And he's like, "Oh, months." and, and apparently Dustin Hoffman loved this, and Sidney Pollack was like, "Yeah, let's not even go there."
that's that's hilarious.
It is very funny, but I mean, I think Sidney Pollack's sensibilities, from what I could tell from watching this all the behind the scenes material, was Sidney Pollack, like Dustin Hoffman, I think wanted more farcical type stuff, and Sidney Pollack liked it to be more realistic and grounded. And
Um,
I think it really works for the movie, that sort of push and pull, because apparently they clashed a fair amount while
yeah,
shooting this movie.
yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, when you have the idea of a man dressing up as a woman, there
Hmm.
is you could kind of fall into the trap of like it being played like really big for gags and the joke
Yeah.
being on the woman in a way, or the man dressed
Hmm.
up as a woman, or like, hey, ain't it crazy that women do this, like there's
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate in this film how they never made the kind of Dustin Hoffman's female character, Dorothy Michaels, like the butt of the joke.
No, I mean, yeah, the character of Dorothy, I think, has a lot of dignity in the movie, and I think that's what makes her work, and I think that's what makes the movie work.
Yeah,
And I think it holds up remarkably well, considering it's like over 40 years old now.
yeah. No, I mean I understand. Like I'm sure like some younger people might
Hmm.
say that you couldn't do this today because the topic of transgender people and whatnot, and like I can
Right.
get that. Like optically, it doesn't look great. Oh, this this straight white guy just really wants a job, so he kind of impersonates a woman and takes a job away from a woman that could really use it, like his best friend, Sandy,
Yeah.
played by Terry Garr.
Yeah.
But and so like there is that optics of it not looking great, but I do think with this movie, like he does get a different perspective that he wouldn't have gotten normally through a man's eyes. Because in the
Hmm.
beginning of the
Hmm.
film, we see he's I don't want to say a cad, but he it's like in the birthday party scene where he's just kind of hitting on women everywhere. It's like, hey, yeah, what's
Yeah, we see him. We see his behavior changes over the course of the movie. Yeah,
yeah, and he gets
he's.
like, and he gets in touch with his like feminine side, and
Hmm.
he has more empathy,
Yeah,
and he's like, oh wow,
absolutely.
guys are really kind of jerks, like women have been saying forever. So
Right,
like
and
he's
it's a little bit of that. To know a man, you walk a mile in his shoes, and in this
yes,
case, he's walking in pumps.
that's
Uh,
right. These boots ran
so
for walking, John.
yeah. Um, so yeah, so Dustin Hoffman's playing uh, Michael Dorsey, who's a New York actor, primarily a stage actor, but he's also doing various jobs to pay the rent. He's working as a waiter in a restaurant. He's also teaching acting, and he's roommates with Bill Murray's character Jeff, who's a writer.
Right, and they Bill Murray's Jeff, he's a writer, and he wrote a play that he wants to sort of put on in
Hmm.
a playhouse in Syracuse.
Right, right.
So it's
About
like,
Love Canal, which was like a some sort of like I think suburban home division thing, but there was I think they buried toxic waste there, something like that.
yeah, like I mean, I just know that because when his agent talks about it, it's like, yeah, Love
Hmm.
Canal. People don't want to see that. If they want to see a play about people living in toxic waste, they could just look over to New Jersey.
Yeah, yeah, I knew we'd mention that.
Hmm.
It's a good line. Yeah,
It is. It
I'll
is.
give him that. Yeah.
It is.
um,
But yeah, yeah. So like, they wanna make enough money to hold a play in Syracuse because I think
mhm.
they said that like has done a lot of performances up in Syracuse and he's very well liked up there and gotten good
Mhm.
reviews. But he has a hard time getting a job in New York City because he's a perfectionist and he's extremely difficult to work with. And
Yes.
word's gotten around town that he's like no one wants to deal with him because he's such a hard ass.
Right, and
And
they set this up beautifully in this montage that's opening the film, where we just see like little snippets of his life as an actor, and apparently, like everything that happens in this montage is stuff that actually happened to Dustin Hoffman.
oh really?
Yeah, so he's sort of almost satirizing himself, and he's playing Tolstoy and he's dying, and the director's like, yes, but could you get up and deliver this death speech at center stage, because the left side of the house can't see you at all? And he's like, I'm dying and you want me to get up and walk to center stage?
You want me to walk the center stage?
Yeah. Is that your Dustin?
That's my Dustin. I've been
Okay.
working on it,
Okay.
baby.
All
The
right.
boy of a thousand voices. I'm here
Um,
all night.
yeah, and we find out later when he's in discussion with his agent, played by the film's director, Sidney Pollack, uh, that he got fired from a commercial because he was playing a tomato, and
Yes.
the director wanted him to sit down. And he's like, I can't sit down. I'm a tomato. It makes no logical sense.
You're a tomato.
You're a tomato. There is no logic. That's what I said. And I love Sidney Pollack in this film. He's so funny, and he originally wasn't supposed to play the agent, and the person who was supposed to play the agent, who was originally hired for the part, was Dabney Coleman.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And then, but Hoffman was saying, "We look, you and I, we're fighting a lot. Let's get this energy on screen." He was like, "You should play the agent," and Sidney Pollack was like, no, no, I don't want to play the agent. I'm already directing the film. That's hard enough. I haven't acted in 20 years. I don't want to do it. And Sidney Pollack and Dustin Hoffman shared the same agent, and like his agent was leaning on to do it, and it got to the point where Dustin Hoffman was like sending him a dozen flowers every day, saying, "Please be my agent. Love, Dorothy."
Oh,
And so Pollack finally agreed to do it, and I think it works really great. I think Sidney Pollack is one of the funniest people in the picture, and
yeah. Like, I mean, until you told me now that he hadn't acted in 20 years, that's shocking. It doesn't show at
yeah,
all.
I
Like
mean,
he
he's
just
so naturalistic. He's just got great instincts, and yeah.
yeah, and I mean Hoffman was right. Like the chemistry between them is real. Like the
Hmm.
scenes they have together are they really pop. I thought those
They
some
are
of the
some of
best
the
stuff.
funniest scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
And especially as the movie goes on and the dilemma gets more and more complicated and more absurd, and and so many of the scenes are just kind of Dustin Hoffman explaining to Sidney Pollack, like, oh, here's the insanity that's happening with me right now. And
Oh right. Yeah, with Charles
yeah,
Durning and yeah.
yeah. And okay, so Dustin's a struggling actor. His roommate is Bill Murray, who's a playwright. They've written this play about the love canal that they want to star in with a third friend of theirs, Sandy, played by the great Terry Garr,
Mm-hmm.
who's very very funny in this movie. Nominated for an Oscar for this
Oh,
movie,
no, I did not know that.
um, and and actually lost to one of her co-stars in this movie, Jessica Lange.
What did? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. Personally, I would have given it to Terry, but
Yeah, I think she had more. I mean, I don't say she had more to do, but like with her character, I mean, it wasn't a huge part, but like she still has
mhm.
like some serious great lines because her character's a bit of a I don't want to say a doormat, but she's like somebody who always kind of
No,
second guessing
yeah.
herself and very much like, oh God, I don't
She's
know.
very neurotic, and yeah,
Yes,
she doesn't stand up for herself the way she should, and she tries to get Michael, she gets Michael to prepare for this big audition with her, and we
right,
see him like coaching her on the role, and it's really interesting. And like early in the film, there's a surprise party for Michael Dorsey,
right. It's his
and
birthday.
yeah, and we see him hitting on like three different women over the course of this party, and basically using the same line in each one. It's like,
Yeah,
"Hey, are you an actress?"
yeah. One of the women, Christine Ebersol.
Yeah, the redhead, right?
No, I think it was like the second woman he hit on. Like she was like
Oh, the
standing
one
up.
who's sitting in the chair.
No, no, no. It was like the stand. She was like standing up standing next to like the record player, and he says, "Hey, like, could you stick around till the end of the party? I'd love to talk to you and chat before the." And then she actually at the end of the party goes off with some other dude.
Right, that was the redhead.
Oh, all right, then yes, Christine
Okay.
Ebersol.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I thought that was her.
I
Yes.
wasn't looking at her hair. Hey, hey.
Okay. Um. All right. Yeah. So yeah, she does a good job with that small part, I think.
Yeah,
Um.
yeah, no, absolutely. She does a great job. I think it's a small part, but she makes it work.
Hmm. Yeah, she makes the most
Absolutely.
of it. And Bill Murray, hilarious in this movie, and I understand he improved a lot of his dialogue.
I could see that. There was like this one part where, like, it's a party and they're hanging
Hmm.
out in the kitchen, like people do in
Yeah.
parties. Tons of Budweiser cans and a jug of wine,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like they're
He's
talk.
at the kitchen table, just kind of pontificating.
Yeah, and he says like, I don't want people to look at my play and say, "Hey, great job," or "Hey, that really made me think." Fuck that. I want people to see my play and say, "Hey, I saw your play. What happened?"
Yeah. He says, I wish I had a theater that was only open when it rained, so he could only get like the people who came in to get out of the rain. And and like and apparently Sidney Pollack just said, I didn't know what he was going to say. I just said, say stuff that sounds profound but is really nonsensical. And and the beauty of it is each time we cut back to him, there are fewer people than before. Like at first he's like talking to four or five people, and then they cut back and it's like half that many, and then it's finally just him and his girlfriend.
My man.
And he's making even less sense. He's like, yeah, I don't see why the American Indian is less American than Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. And just And this is like Bill Murray in his prime too.
Yeah.
He is so funny in this movie. And the part of Jeff was apparently one of Elaine May's contributions
Oh, really?
to the script. Yeah, she was like, you got to have a roommate to like talk about stuff with, and Dustin Hoffman was like, no, why would I have a roommate? I'm like 38. Why why would I have a roommate? And it's like, well, you're a struggling actor in New York City. That's why you
Yeah.
have a roommate.
Exactly. 38. Yeah, people have roommates well into their 40s in New York City.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on.
Um, and so yeah, so Jeff was one of her contributions. What else? She contributed something else significant, and I'm blanking on what that was. She built up the female roles too. I think she added
Mm,
Sandy to the script because she said, "I'm writing this part for Terry Garr, so you better cast her."
well done. Well
And
played.
I mean, I think it's kind of amazing that Elaine May did this much and didn't want credit. Maybe she just didn't feel like enough of her work remained, or
Right.
I don't know. But
No, but I mean, you can definitely tell that. Like, I mean, there's some scenes in this film where you could tell, like, oh, I feel like a woman wrote this because it just
Mhm.
doesn't quite feel like a guy would have this perspective
Yeah.
and say these words that are coming
Hmm.
out in the scene right now. Like somebody, someone with a female touch definitely
Yeah, yeah,
had a hand in this.
and I like it. Yeah, we get to see Michael grow over the course of the film as he's inhabiting the role of Dorothy, and we realize, yeah, Michael, he is a really great actor, but he's his own worst enemy because he's very argumentative and
Yeah,
aggressive, and he's very like my way or the highway,
right,
and so
exactly.
nobody wants to work with him.
He actually kind of he actually acts like a diva, but
Hmm.
he's not at that status an actor can be a diva because he's still
Right.
unknown.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody's going to put up with it because
Yeah,
yeah.
everybody's like, no, get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah. And so he helps out Sandy with her audition, which we find out is for a new character on a soap opera.
Hmm.
And Michael desperately needs money to mount this play. He needs like $8,000 to mount this play in
Ooh,
Syracuse, written by his roommate, who's also unknown, and Sandy, who's also unknown because we see her in one of Michael's classes. So,
right.
um,
So yeah, so then we see Michael take Sandy to the audition.
mhm.
They go in.
Okay, I'll pick you up at 10 and I'll enrage you. One of my
Yes.
favorite lines in the movie. Because
Oh, right. Yes.
this
Exactly.
movie is so good at like it gives you a great laugh line and then it cuts right after, and you
Yeah.
just jump to the next scene, and but it gives you time enough to laugh, but it enhances the humor so much. The editing is really good in this movie, I think.
Yeah. No, some solid editing in this one.
Hmm.
And yeah, so she goes in, and then she comes out almost immediately after
Hmm.
she goes in. And she's upset. She's crying. She's like, yeah, they told me I wasn't right for it. They didn't even let me audition. She's
Right.
like, fuck this business. I'm quitting. I'm going back home to San Diego.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and then Michael's like, no, you should stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
And he
And,
tries.
and while he's trying to like talk to the receptionist to get Sandy back in, she hears that he hears that one of the guys on the soap is now doing a production of The Iceman Cometh.
Right.
And it apparently was somebody that Michael knew. And he hears this and he immediately rushes off to his
Yeah,
agent, Sidney Pollock.
he like immediately abandons his
Yeah.
friend. Is like, oh, like, all right, peace. I gotta see it. What's
Yeah.
about.
So, I mean, that shows his self centeredness. He immediately forgets about her problems and it's all about his problems. Runs across town to his agent, barges him without an appointment. And he's like, why is he playing that part? I was supposed to get in on that.
Yeah, yeah. So it shows in the beginning he's a bit of a narcissist, I guess, maybe, or
Yeah, yeah, I'd say that's safe to say. Yeah,
yeah,
he's very self centered and very argumentative and very yeah
right,
all that
yeah,
uh, and 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 he's like, what are you saying? Nobody in the city wants to work with me? And Sidney Pollack's like, no, 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 that's too narrow. Nobody in Hollywood wants to work with you
you got both coasts not wanting to put up with your shit.
either. Yeah, and he's very desperate. So he's like, no one will hire you, and then it's just a smash cut to him in drag walking down the street, and so much funnier than seeing him prepare or make this insane decision. It's just boom, fait accompli, and walking down the street as a lady.
Yeah, like I thought there would be more of him, like kind of struggling with decision, like, oh, should I do
Hmm.
this? Is this cool to do? And but no, He's like, yeah, I'll just do this, and it
Yeah,
just
and
goes.
it's the funniest possible choice they could have made, and they really knocked themselves out on the makeup of transforming Dustin Hoffman into a woman, and because he looks convincing.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah, and apparently he tried this out in real life. Like he went to a parent teacher conference dressed as Dorothy, and was
Oh,
like, "Oh, I'm such and so's aunt, Dorothy," and he fooled everybody. He went up to John Voight in a restaurant,
oh
who he
boy.
knew from Midnight Cowboy, and like was like, "Oh, excuse me, I'm your biggest fan," and then like propositioned John Voight, and John Voight didn't catch on. Uh,
Oh wow.
so it's not like the exaggerated thing where it's like, "Oh, how could this possibly fool anybody?" Which as much as I love Some Like It Hot,
Yeah, or even like
Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, they're obviously men in drag.
yeah, or even like bosom buddies. It's like
Yeah,
yeah, you can tell.
yeah,
But
but here, I mean, here they actually did stuff. I mean, they put enough makeup on her, and put in these glasses, and I'm sure plucked his eyebrows, because I was fixating on Dustin Hoffman's eyebrows through much of this movie.
really,
I was like, they had to have plucked those, right? They had to, because those look like really skinny eyebrows for Dustin Hoffman. But
yeah, yeah, I guess so. As a man, I never even think about my eyebrows.
yeah,
I don't give them two thoughts, but yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I just trim them back occasionally,
Yeah, I don't even do that. I think my eyebrows are usually pretty like a-okay the way they are. I don't even have to.
Okay, we get it. You don't have like bushy eyebrows. Don't
Yeah,
rub it in.
I'm no Eugene Levy. That's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Perfect eyebrows. The Lord blessed me.
But and they put him in like high necked blouses throughout to hide his Adam's apple, and
Yeah.
apparently he has a 16-inch neck, which is pretty broad for a lady. He's wearing false teeth because apparently they were saying in some of the behind the scenes features that women's teeth tend to be a little longer, and
Oh,
I
huh.
had no idea. But
I I ain't looking at her teeth. Wugga, 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 wugga.
Um, yeah, but they do a really nice job, and yeah, you do accept Dustin Hoffman as a woman in this movie, and I think that's really what makes this movie work and keeps this movie grounded. And it's not like as an absurd of a farce as like Some Like It Hot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like it proves that like yeah, like so when Dorothy Michael Dorsey, get it? Huh?
Hmm.
Like when Dorothy goes in for the audition and like
Hmm.
of
He
course
decides to audition for the part that Sandy was rejected for.
right, exactly. And of course the director Ron, played by Dabney Coleman,
Right.
just looks at her and is like, "Oh, you know what? You're just not right for the
Yeah,
sorry
yeah.
to
He's like,
sweetheart."
we're going for a very specific thing and making a specific statement with this. And Dabney Coleman is just he plays this to the hilt. I mean, Dabney Coleman could play such a great jerk, and
Yeah.
Sidney Pollack shifted him over to the director role after he decided to play the agent after Dustin Hoffman convinced him. And yeah, if you needed a jerk in the early '80s, you called Dabney Coleman.
Yeah, you either went to him or William Atherton. Those were your two guys.
Yeah, and it wasn't quite William Atherton's time yet because
Not
Ghostbusters wasn't a thing
not
quite
yet,
yet. So,
but
so you
soon.
you you got the guy from 9 to 5, you got the guy from Tootsie, you got the guy from Buffalo Bill. Who was
Uh,
that? Dabney fucking Coleman. That's
yeah,
who.
hot to trot later on.
Oh, is that why somebody left a hot to trot comment
Yeah,
on our Twitter?
yeah. Like I mean, I never saw hot to trot, but I
Neither have
remember.
I. I did. I like somebody left that, and I didn't get it at all. And okay, I'd forgotten that Dabney Coleman was in that. Okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, now I understand.
yeah. Do you
Okay.
not? Yeah. Do you not get hot to trot references?
No one gets hot to trot references.
That is correct. That's the right answer. Yes.
Yeah. I would worry if I got a hot to trot reference.
Like I'm a huge nerd, and I barely get hot to trot references.
Yeah, yeah. I knew it's a horse movie and Bobcat Goldthwait is in it. That is the extent of my knowledge of hot to trot.
I think it's like a talking horse. I want to say.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And then there's Shakes the Clown where he's a clown and Julie Brown is in it.
Yes. Wubba wubba wubba.
Not that one.
What?
Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun, Julie Brown.
Oh yeah. Just say
Earth
Julie.
Girls Are Easy.
Yes. Just say
Yeah,
Julie. Yes.
yeah, exactly.
The Edge. Got it.
Hmm.
Okay. Uh,
The Edge? You're pulling out The Edge.
yeah,
Wow.
I know. I don't get. I act like I don't understand Hot to Trot references, but I totally understand the Edge references.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, then I'm an enigma. I can.
A few other people, famous people, were on that. Was that the thing that Jennifer Aniston was on?
It was,
Yeah.
and Tom
I was
Kenny.
reading about that recently for some reason.
I believe Tom Kenny, who went on to voice SpongeBob SquarePants, was on that
Hmm.
too. A few other people. I remember that show being really weird.
I never watched it. I just know of it, because it's like several of the people became famous later for other things. So
Yeah, like I remember the humor being like pretty dark, like dark to the point where it kind of wasn't funny. It was just like,
ah,
oh, it's like, oh, that's disturbing. It's like
yeah,
it's more disturbing than funny type of stuff.
it's such a delicate balance. Like in one of like Sidney Pollack was talking about this in one of the behind the scenes featurettes where he was, because he was primarily a dramatic director. He hadn't done many comedies, and he was saying like in drama there's like 15, 20 different ways you can play something. But in comedy, usually there's just like one thing that's the bullseye. And you get those concentric circles out from it, and if you get too far out from it, then it's just like you're begging for the laugh. And I found that really interesting. Where so he was saying that was why comedy is much harder than drama.
Yeah, a lot of that makes some exactly like a lot of times. I don't know why comedy still doesn't get the due that it does at the awards show and whatnot, but it's a harder trick to pull off than drama. And
I
I don't
think
know.
people just assume it's like silly or trivial, and therefore it's easier.
I
But yeah,
guess.
but it's really not. Yeah, it's I mean, and so few comedic performances end up getting recognized by awards. Like I mean, like I was saying, like I feel like Terry Garr deserved the Oscar more than Jessica Lange in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, Not that Jessica Lange was bad, but I just think what Terry Garr was doing is harder and more impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And yeah, for those who don't know about Sidney Pollack, some of the biggest films he's done is, of course, The Way We Were,
Hmm.
3 Days of the
I
Condor,
watched that for the first time just recently.
three
Good
days,
movie.
3 Days of the Condor.
Hmm.
How was that?
Pretty good. It's a 70s conspiracy thriller with Robert Redford,
Ooh,
Faye Dunaway. Um,
okay.
he works as like a reader in like the secret CIA office, and his job is he's supposed to like read stuff to see if they might inspire terrorist plots, basically.
Oh wow,
And
that's
he
it.
goes out for lunch for the office one day, and while he's out, the entire office is hit
Oh
and they
shit.
kill everyone there. And so he's suddenly like on the run, and he doesn't, it's a 70s conspiracy thriller. So of course he doesn't know who to trust.
Oh fuck.
And yeah, it's a pretty good movie. Yeah,
All right. Oh, all right. I'll give that a shot.
it
Uh,
was. I watched it on Prime not long ago. It might be about ready to leave. I'm not sure,
okay. All right. I'll
but
check it out.
yeah.
But yeah, he also direct. I mean, the most famous ones he's probably known for are Out of Africa,
Hmm.
The Firm with Tom Cruise,
Hmm.
and Sabrina, the remake with Harrison Ford.
I've never seen all the remake of Sabrina. I love the original, the Billy Wilder original.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that either. I need to give that a look. See.
It'd be interesting to check it out just to compare it to the original. But I love the original so much I can't imagine it being any better
Yeah,
or
I hear
even
you.
as good. But it'd be interesting to compare.
Yeah, I
Um,
hear you. I hear you. But yeah, yeah. So, what Dorothy? That's where we were at.
mhm,
So she gets the part
mhm.
in the soap opera. She
Yeah, partly by like kind of standing up for herself.
yes, yes, very much so.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then she goes, and then Michael as Dorothy goes to her agent, totally fools him. That was a
Yeah.
great scene they had in the Russian tea room.
Yes. Yes. Like he approaches Sidney Pollack on the street as Dorothy, and he's like, "Excuse me, could you tell me where the Russian tea room is?" And Sidney Pollack just has a great double take where he just kind of looks at her like he's on candy camera for a moment, and he's like, "This is the Russian tea room. You're standing right in front of it." And she's like, "Oh, oh, oh my!" And then approaches him, and then he realizes like, "Oh, I fooled him." And then he approaches on the inside and says, "It's Michael Dorsey." and,
What?
and one of my favorite lines in the movie is Sidney Pollack just going, "Oh God, I begged you to get some therapy." He thinks that his client has had a psychotic break.
Yeah. It's rough.
And he might not be wrong.
Might not.
And
Yeah.
he's like, you're crazy. No, I'm employed. And because he told the people at the soap that this guy is my agent, this is my representation, because he doesn't have any acting history as Dorothy Michaels, so he has to let his agent in on the secret to say, like, the contracts are going to be coming for this person you've never heard of.
Wow. So yeah, the agent's like, "Oh, all right, you've dragged me into this now. Here we go."
Right, and
Yeah, and I also do like the scene after this where Michael goes to Sandy's apartment because Michael asks his agent, like, "I'm gonna need some money so I can get some new clothes to kind of keep up this ruse."
mhm,
And I think after that, Jeff is like, asks, "Well, what is Sandy gonna say when she finds they have all this money?" And so he makes up a lie saying a dead relative left it to him.
yeah,
And so he goes over to Sandy's house to, like, visit, and like I think they're planning on going out. So she hops in the shower, and then
yeah.
while she's hopping in the shower, he's kind of looking himself in the mirror for like trying out the persona of Dorothy. And then at one point, while she's in the shower, he kind of goes into her bedroom and
Mhm.
sees like one of her dresses laying on the bed. So he
Right.
thinks, "Oh, maybe I should try on this dress to see how
Maybe
it'll fit
something
me."
like this would work for me, would work for Dorothy. And so he decide he like kind of you see him sort of weighing it in his mind, and he's like, maybe I can try this on while she's in the shower. And Terry Garr comes out of the shower early while he's there, like in his bikini briefs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dustin Hoffman, pretty shredded.
He's in better shape than I would have guessed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was like,
I'm sure
"Oh,
he
okay."
lost some weight for this movie.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, Hoffman."
By the way, I just looked it up on an inflation calculator. He needs $8,000 for the play. In today's money, in 2024, that is $25,993.62. So
Oh,
we're talking $26,000.
dear God.
Yeah, and they say later in the movie that he's making 650 a week for the soap. Apparently, that's $2,111.98 in today's money.
It's good money.
That's good money, you could
It's-
live on that in New York City still, I think, maybe if you
Uh,
have a roommate.
if you have a couple roommates,
Yeah, and
you
then
know,
his salary goes up to 850, so which is $2,761.82.
okay.
So
All right,
so
there we go. Making some money. So
yeah.
yeah, so like you said, so Sandy walks in on him about to try on the dress, and so he's in his skivvies, and
Hmm.
he's kind of ashamed to say what he really wants to do, so he ends
Yeah.
up saying, "Sandy, I want you."
Yeah, and she's so neurotic. She's standing there in a towel, just got out of the shower. She just goes, "You want me?" And he goes, "I want you." And he starts walking over, but his pants are still around below his knees, so he's kind of waddling over. He's doing a duck walk.
Yes,
Um,
hot.
yeah, and so he basically sleeps with his friend of 6 years just to get out of the awkward situation, which is hilarious.
Fantastic.
Hilarious. So now he's in this new romantic relationship with his friend of some years.
It's like, oh, this won't, this won't come back to bite me in the ass.
This will end well.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course. It's a nice new little wrinkle in my life.
yeah, and as we see them like post coital, and she's like, "Oh well, you're gonna dump me. This is gonna end badly because it always ends badly." And yeah, she's very neurotic, but because it's Terry Garr, it's wonderfully endearing.
It is.
Um,
It is. She's the best.
she really is.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. So then we go to Dorothy's first day at work, and then
mhm.
they show her dressing room. She's sharing a dressing room with Gina Davis, a young Gina Davis.
Gina Davis, very first movie. I think it was her first thing. I think she was just a model before this. This was like her first acting job ever.
Oh
And
wow.
apparently Sydney Pollack said she was good enough that they kept adding more stuff for her to do in the movie. So
Oh nice. Okay.
yeah.
So yeah. So we see Dorothy sharing a dressing room with young Gina Davis, who's just
Hmm.
in her skivvies, just like bam.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, whoa.
They have her in some of the skimpiest women's underwear I have ever seen in my life in this
Like,
thing.
like,
It's like they're like strings, man.
yeah, like I was covering my eyes. I was like,
I
good,
know.
my lord.
And of course Dorothy was not expecting this at all, and he's very taken aback because suddenly there's this beautiful woman in her underwear and in front of him, and she doesn't think anything's weird because she thinks I'm sharing a dressing room with another woman, and he's like, oh my, okay,
Ooh.
um,
Ooh.
yeah,
Oh my. So yeah, so then they get to talking, and then of course she mentions that Dorothy has a scene coming up with John Van Horn, who plays
John Van Horn, who's like the not the matriarch, the patriarch of this soap opera. He's been on since the first episode.
right. And there's been a change to their scene where now Dorothy has to kiss Mr. John Van Horn, played by
Yeah,
the great George Gaines, who you might remember as Mr. Warnemont from Punky Brewster and
yeah.
Commandant Lassard.
Commandant Lassard on
Yes.
from the Police Academy movies.
Oh, my God. Man's an icon.
Nobody can receive oral sex behind a podium like this man.
Oh, God. I remember watching that scene as a kid, but it was like on channel 11 or something.
Yeah,
And so they cut out all the suggestive stuff. And
yeah.
as a kid, I was like, I don't get it. What's
What's
happening?
going? Why is he moaning all of a sudden? Yeah,
Yeah,
I rewatching this during the initial audition scene as Dorothy for the soap. I watched this movie on TV so much that when she's telling off Dabney Coleman, I remembered him as, shame on you, you macho man. And no, the actual line is, you macho shithead. And they just looped it in. And I was like, oh, I'd forgotten that was the original line. Wow. And
Macho Man. Okay.
yeah, it works.
Yeah, it does.
It
It
was a
does.
popular song. You have that alliteration going.
You macho man.
And there's some impressive people also in the crew of the soap. We got Doris Bellick as Rita Marshall, who I'm assuming is like the producer of the show, because she
Believe
seems
so.
she seems above Ron, the director.
Yeah, I don't want to say like she's like the network head, but yeah, she seems definitely
No, she seems
a
too
suit.
involved with the show to be a network person. I
Yeah,
felt like she was the producer or something like that,
yeah,
or maybe the creator.
she's definitely a suit.
Yeah, yeah, but she was really good. I really liked her, and you might have noticed Lynn Thigpen.
Yes, she's a PA on that. I remember from she was on Lean on Me.
Hmm.
Of course, she was the commissioner in Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Who could forget
Yeah,
that?
I mean she's got like a list of credits a mile long, like the length of your arm, man. I watched the Warriors for the first time like a week or so ago, and she's in that as a DJ.
Oh, that's right. She is the warrior. Bang bang.
You haven't seen the Warriors, have
I
you?
know. I saw the Warriors. I was fitting
Okay.
in the Patty Smith.
Yeah. No. Okay. All right.
I'm weaving worlds together. I
Okay.
was
Shooting down the walls of heartache. I get it.
yeah. There we go. I saw the war. I am the Warriors.
Okay.
Bang bang.
But yeah, it was fun to see them. And they're both great support. And Dorothy kind of develops this tendency to improvise during her scenes, but
Uh,
it works for her character and on the soap, and so people are just kind of like, yeah, let's go with it.
yeah, I think it kind of works because, well, for one thing, she's kind of like now attuned to some of the misogyny and macho
Hmm.
behavior that the guys do on set,
Right.
like the fact that uh, John Van Horn just kisses all the women, and everybody's like, oh yeah, we all call him the tongue. Just
Yeah.
like he's very lecturous, and we also see that Ron, Dabney Coleman's character, the director, he's also kind of very he has very sexist attitudes towards women. Like
He's very condescending. We learned that he's dating Julie, Jessica Lange's character, the lead actress on the show.
yeah, and he had like
I guess she's the lead actress. Maybe she's not. I don't know.
no, I would say she is
Um,
like she yeah, and he has her hand on her backside throughout a lot of the scenes in this in this movie.
yeah, like he's helping her into a cab, and he just gives
Yeah,
her that little lift on the tuchus.
yes, it is. Watch your tush.
Yeah, I don't think that actually helps a woman into a cab.
Couldn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt him, but
Hey,
uh, but we just we see like what today I guess we'd call microaggressions, where it's just like a PA says like, hey, do you need anything from craft services? And he's like, yeah, give me a bagel with cream cheese. And the PA goes, do you want anything, Julie? And he's like, no, she's fine. without
Yeah,
even asking her. And you see kind of the look on Jessica Lange's face where she's like, "You didn't even ask me."
yeah,
Um,
and we also see like Dorothy trying to ask some the director some questions, and he just kind of
mhm,
talks over her. It's like, yeah, yeah, no, no, you're gonna stand here, and your mark's here, and just come through here. And it's like, yeah, but I have
yeah,
a but I have a but, and he's just
yeah, and then he goes ahead and does an improv in the scene to avoid kissing George Gaines. Uh, she slaps him over the head with her little file folder, and she's like, "You have to reach my mind and not my lips." Um, and then afterwards, Dabney Coleman comes up and says to her, "Well, if you have an idea like that, discuss it with me first." And he's like, "I tried, you shithead."
yeah, yeah, that's what the women folks are trying to tell us to go through this type of thing all the days.
Yeah, yeah. So he's having his little. I don't know if I'd call it a Me Too moment. I don't know if I should call it a Me Too moment, but he's having moments where he's kind of realizing what women go through on an
Yeah,
everyday basis.
yeah, absolutely. And as he goes on with this character throughout the show, because I think at first this was only supposed to be like a 2 year gig, but like as
No,
he
no, no. Like months.
a month. Oh right.
I mean, it's obviously a very short window of time. Like he was only on for like a few weeks because he's only looking to raise that $800, and like I don't have my computer calculator handy. It was so he's earning 650 a week. So however long that takes to earn $8,000 from that. So
Okay. But yeah, like as he goes on with this character, he's actually starting to become a little bit more popular with viewers, and he also
mhm.
has like a respect for the character of Dorothy. Like he says, like I think my character Dorothy is smarter than I am. So, like he needs like he's
Yeah,
kind of really kind of coming into his own into this character, and really
yeah,
thinks of her as a actual separate person outside of himself almost.
yeah. And meanwhile, like Bill Murray as Jeff is just like, this is weird, man. This is weird. And at one point he just goes, "Okay, be honest. Are you just doing this for the money, or is it so you can also wear these little outfits?" and and Dustin Hoffman or Michael Dorsey is just like, "I'm not even going to dignify that with a response." Um, I mean, they're pretty clear. It's he's not getting any sort of sexual pleasure from this. He never at any point feels like he's a woman trapped in a man's body. He's just getting in touch with his feminine side as a man.
Yes, for
Yeah.
absolutely. That's something we should all strive to do, I'd say.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So as the show goes on, he's getting a little bit more and more popular. He's starting to find his groove. We
Talking to
s-
Gene Shalit,
J-
doing photo shoots with Andy
yeah,
Warhol.
that came out of nowhere. I was like, is that what? What did
Yeah,
Andy Warhol was in Tootsie?
it's a totally random cameo. Like on the Criterion DVD I got, there is a deleted scene where it's Gene Shalit is sort of mock interviewing uh, Dustin Hoffman as Dorothy Michaels, and there's just photos of it in a montage, just so we have a Gene Shalit cameo. And I think they put him on the cover of TV Guide together for some reason, but
Wow.
yeah. Um, you can see it's just like a 4 minute interview, and you can see Gene Shalit's not taking it entirely seriously. He's making some allusions. He's like, you know, oh, the new queen of daytime television, or should I say queen? And it's Gene Shalit being very cutesy Gene Shalit.
Yeah. It's like, come on, Gene, just play along.
So I'm like, okay, I kind of see why they cut this.
It's like, all right. But yeah, and we also see that Jessica Lange's character is Julie, like her and
Hmm.
Dorothy are establishing a bond. At one point, we
Hmm.
see the great Charles Durning coming in as Julie's father,
Yeah,
and like he's also smitten by Dorothy as well.
yeah, yeah. At one point, Julie invites Dorothy out to her family farm over like a holiday weekend. I guess maybe it can't be the Christmas holidays because we don't see any snow on the ground and they're in the New York area.
Yeah,
So
they just said holiday, so I'm like maybe
they
Labor
said
Day.
holidays plural, so which immediately makes me think Christmas, New Year's, but
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
know.
like when you say holidays, you're talking about Christmas or Thanksgiving. But maybe it was I don't know Labor Day weekend or I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, because he's just away for a weekend, and yeah, and Jeff is like, don't do this. You have to like maintain the pretense around her the entire weekend. But Michael, he's developing feelings for Julie, and so he's just kind of head over heels about the thought of spending uh, so much concentrated time with her. And meanwhile, he's so busy with his new job, and he's so into Julie, he's now neglecting Sandy, who
Mm.
he's supposed to be dating. He's standing her up for dates and things like that. And
Yeah, like he blows her off to hang out more with Julie. At one point, Julie wants to run lines
yeah,
with her just because like they're making like a lot of changes in the script,
hmm
and he also like really is drawn to her because he sees what a cad Ron is being because he catches
yeah,
Ron making out with April, who is
yeah.
Gina
Gina
Davis's
Davis's
character.
character. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. He sees them sort of having a little smoochy time in
That
a secluded corner of the set, which
canoodling.
which seems exceptionally stupid when his
Yeah.
other relationship works on the same set. But
Yeah, like I guess I get it because they're supposed to show how he's such
yeah,
a jerk that he doesn't really care. He's like,
yeah,
yeah,
but
like
you'd hope that April would have more sense.
you would hope, you would hope, but I don't know. The
If nothing else, you have a dressing room, lady.
Yeah, no, it has a lock and everything.
Yeah,
But yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, he plays a
but when faced with the sheer sexual magnetism of a Dabney Coleman, you
mm,
just can't control yourself.
can't say no to that mustache. Come
Nope,
on,
nope. Come on.
my lord.
By the way, in the behind the scenes features, Dabney Coleman just seemed like the nicest guy.
I think
He's so not the characters he played.
it's one of those things where because you get kind of typecast as playing
hmm
jerks and a-holes, you have to
Yeah.
go out of your way to be like super nice in real life.
Or I think possibly like it takes a really nice person to play a really good asshole.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, all
like
right.
because some of that inner charm comes through, and you can't totally hate a Dabney Coleman character because I think
Yeah.
Dabney Coleman just had an inherent likability to him. And Gina Davis, I saw she posted, I think it was on Twitter and Instagram or something, because she co-starred with him in Buffalo Bill, a sitcom after this,
Oh, wow.
which was like highly regarded but swiftly canceled because I think it was a little ahead of its time.
Mhm.
People like American audiences weren't really used to unlikable protagonists in their sitcoms,
Right,
and
right.
he was playing a real jerk, and he was in some local TV show or something like that. And Gina Davis was like, "Oh, he was just the sweetest man, and we were lifelong friends after that." And it was just like, "Oh, he seemed like a really great guy."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
and Charles Durning seems like a great guy in this movie. He is so charming in this
Yeah.
movie because
This
his character Les, who's Julie's father, he's got such a good heart. He's just like a simple, direct kind of guy, and he's like instantly smitten with Dorothy.
Yeah, he's salt of the earth.
Yeah, yeah, he's just a simple father, farmer, presumably widowed. Uh, um,
Yeah, yeah, the wife is definitely passed on.
yeah, she's not in the picture anymore,
Yeah, yeah.
and he develops a real liking for Dorothy over this holiday weekend, whichever holiday it is.
Yeah, which I mean, but yeah, I mean, I'm with the roommate Jeff on this one. Like, he definitely shouldn't have gone because like once he gets up there, he
hmm
finds out that Dorothy finds out she's sharing a bed with Julie,
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, this is this is just not good.
yeah, yeah, but there is a really nice moment when they're like in bed next to each other, and Julie just thinks she's sleeping with another heterosexual woman, so there's no awkwardness on her side, and Jessica Lange has this nice monologue about like the wallpaper in her room and how her mother helped her pick it out, and it's kind of about how much she misses her mother and all that, and Michael as Dorothy just starts reaching over and starts stroking her hair. And she's like, "Oh, my mother used to do this for me." So it's like Julie's becoming very attached to Dorothy,
Mm,
and it's she's almost like a surrogate mother for her. You,
right.
you get the feeling, and meanwhile, Michael's like out of his mind
Yeah,
with romance and romantic feelings and lust for Julie. And
yeah,
there's a scene I think we kind of skipped over it. I think this is earlier in the movie where when Julie's kind of confiding in Dorothy, and she's saying like, "Wouldn't it be so refreshing if a man just came up to you and said like, hey, look, I could play a lot of games with you." And we could go back and forth on a lot. But the truth is, I'm very attracted to you, and I'd really love to go to bed with you. and Julie's like, wouldn't that be refreshing? Wouldn't that be wonderful? And Dorothy's just like, that would be heaven, just heaven.
Yes. And
And
yeah, then we go to
yeah,
the scene where Michael puts that into practice.
yeah, he happens to be at the same party as Julie and Ron, and he approaches Julie on the balcony, and he does that almost word for word, and gets a drink thrown in his
Yep.
face.
So fellas, don't say that to
Yeah,
women. They would not like that.
yeah. I mean, I guess you could make the case that that's a joke of like, oh, ha ha ha, women don't really know what they want, but
Yeah, I guess I mean I didn't even think of that. But yeah,
yeah,
that's possible you could say something like
but
that.
no, I mean, I think it's just like, maybe what you think might be cool really isn't, or maybe it's just the fact that a man was actually saying that to her just was just creepy enough to put it over the line. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what the movie was kind of going for.
Yeah,
That's the tone of that one.
yeah.
But yeah, like yeah, we see like the relationship between Julie and Dorothy grow more and more, and also Dorothy's popularity on the show grows more and more because um, Michael decides to take her character Dorothy, like Dorothy goes off script a lot of the
Hmm.
time, and to sort of make her character look sort of more empowering to women, and like a really strong sort of almost feminist icon in some points. Because I think
Hmm.
what happened was when Michael and Sandy met up one time after Michael stood her up again,
Hmm.
she's upset and she's like, yeah, and I saw the person that they chose for um that soap opera I went out for. Like she's terrible. Like she's not a strong woman, and like
Yeah,
they really shit the bed there. And like Michael hears that, it's like, well, I heard she's pretty good actually. I don't know what you're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about. So he makes a decision to sort of make the Dorothy character a lot more a stronger, self-reliant uh woman that people.
Right, and that's more of his improvs on the show. We see him in one scene with Julie's character, Nurse Charles, and she's like, that doctor's made so many passes at women in this hospital. I think what we ought to do is get a cattle prod, and I'll equip all the nurses on this floor with a cattle prod.
Yeah, hit him right in the bejubies or whatever.
Yeah, and he actually gets on the phone and it's like, hey, could you call up somebody about farming equipment? And yeah, and we see Julie trying to stifle a laugh. But yeah, it works. So they let her go with it, and apparently they're rewriting the storylines to match. They're making Dorothy's character even stronger and more assertive, and less of a man's idea of what a strong woman is. Like
That's
at one point, Dabney Coleman is like, "Well, what's so absurd about the idea that a strong woman is more masculine?" And he's like, he genuinely doesn't see what the problem is, and
nope, he does not.
yeah, and it's like, dude, you literally work with strong women
Uh,
because we see like several, we see Doris Bellick as Rita, who's the producer on the show,
yeah,
and
Lynn Thigpen is right there.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, but I mean, her character is a hit with
Hmm.
a lot of viewers out there, and she's like, giving signing autographs now, and it
Hmm.
really means a lot to a lot of people, and so much so that the producer Doris Spelak says, "Hey,
Yeah,
you're really good. We're renewing your contract. We want to have you on for like another year."
yeah, we're picking up your option. You're going to be on for a full year. So I think it was initially just supposed to be like maybe a few weeks or maybe a couple months or something.
Right,
And
right.
and like I soap operas I don't watch that many, but they rotate characters in and out, and I think they kind of maybe sign people to the limited contract. They see who hits with the audience, and then if they are a hit, then they extend the contract. I think that's how it works.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Any of our soap opera listeners call in. Let us know how
yeah,
that whole
yeah,
operation works.
yeah. Because you never know who's going to hit, and obviously uh, Dorothy as Emily Kimberly is a hit. So they extended it for a full year. Which to Michael, this is horrifying because he thought there was an end in sight for this, and now there really isn't because his character is so popular. He's done his job too well almost.
Yeah, like, and now he talks to his agent, say, "You got to get me out of this," and
Yeah, and
it's
he's
like,
like, I can't get you out of this. You already signed the contract that had this option for the extension. So
yeah, it's like you can't, and but like you can't do anything right now because it's like if you kind of out yourself, you're gonna it's
yeah,
gonna be a problem, and I'm not. It's gonna be a problem for me because people think I was in on it. So it's gonna be
yeah,
like fraud, and it's like we're
yeah.
all going to go down if because you had to do this bullshit.
Hmm.
So yeah,
And okay, so and then we have like one exceptionally bad night for Michael, where all this stuff sort of comes to a head. Where he's babysitting for Julie.
right. Oh, we forgot Julie's
Um,
a mother.
yeah, Julie's a single mother. Uh, never married the father of her. She's got like a 14-month-old. Um, but Dorothy's assertiveness is rubbing off on Julie. Julie decides, hey, I'm not going to settle for less in my life. I'm going to break up with Ron.
Yas, queen.
Yeah, because like Julie's no fool. She knew like Ron
Yeah,
cheats around and steps out on her with other women. We when we see them at the party, Ron's like hitting on another woman at the bar right in front of Michael
yeah.
because
That
he doesn't recognize Michael as a man.
did you? All right. So that woman at the bar was that
Hmm.
Jean Smart? I'm trying to figure out who that woman was. I can't find any info on it, but it looked like a young Jean Smart, but I could be wrong.
I'm gonna say no because I'm not seeing her on the cast list,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
she would. I mean, Jean Smart's a big enough name that she'd be listed somewhere in there,
All
if
right.
even if, because they list Estelle Getty. Estelle Getty has a bit part in this movie, and they list her in the cast.
That's true. That's
And
true.
there's I'm seeing somebody named Suzanne von Schack who's listed as party girl, and that seems likely to me.
Oh, okay. So that was probably it.
She's a blonde lady,
Yes.
so I'm gonna say it was her,
Okay. All right. So we solved that mystery, gang.
or maybe
Maybe.
I took a shot.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, so Julie decides to break up with Ron, um, and Dorothy's babysitting while she does this, and then when Julie comes back after she's done the deed, and uh, she's having a heart to heart with Dorothy, and Michael sort of forgets himself. He forgets that he's dressed up as Dorothy. He's feeling such closeness to Julie. He leans in for a kiss,
Yeah.
and Julie's like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Um, and Michael is trying to explain. He's like, "If you could just see me out of these clothes," and Julie's like, "No, no, 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 I don't swing that way. No, whatever you think this is not what this was on my end." And
Nope. Nope.
yeah,
I like the chaps. I like
yeah,
the broom.
and so Michael's like, "Oh no, I really fucked things up with Julie," and then he goes back to his apartment, uh, and John Van Horn,
Yeah. Apparently he followed her
yeah,
to her far. Which I mean, I shouldn't laugh because like I've heard number of women I know like so yeah,
yeah,
dudes will follow you from time to time. That's
no, yeah, that totally happens in life, and yeah, it's a scary thing, I'm sure.
yeah.
Um, and but yeah, apparently John Van Horn is just so uh, aflame with desire for
Mm,
Dorothy that he followed her back to her place
yes.
one night, and he's like, yes, I must be with you, and he starts serenading her outside the apartment, so Michael has to let him in,
Yeah.
and then he's trying to force himself on Dorothy, and he's only saved really by the fact that Jeff comes home.
Right. It was quite awkward
Yeah,
to say the
yeah,
least. And
um,
but even before that, uh, what was it? Dorothy meets up with Julie's dad, Les, who is also very
oh yes,
smitten with her, and they go to like a jazz club where they do a little they trip to light fantastic, and
yeah.
then Les proposes to her.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm forgetting the order of things. So many things happen in what is just one night. I think this is something that Larry Gelbart uh, objected to in his book. I think it was kind of added in rewrites. They kind of escalated the tension.
A little, I see what you mean, because like yeah, the fact that he proposed to her, I was like, they weren't even going out. Like, whoa, that's a bold move
Well, I
there.
mean, no, they justify that. I mean, he does say like, "Hey, I know it's fast, but I'm a simple man and I'm a direct guy." I'm talking about the fact that so many incidents happen in one single evening. because we've got they've done a full day shooting at the soap. Uh, Dorothy comes over to Julie's place to babysit while Julie is out with Ron. They go out to dinner. She dumps him. That's probably at least a couple hours because we see a montage of all the craziness he's going through with the baby. Then, like, her dad comes by. Dorothy goes out with the dad. They go out dancing. He proposes. Then he goes home. John Van Horn is there outside his apartment. Then he tries to force himself on her, and then
Oof.
it's a lot, and that's all in one evening. And I realize that that's what you need comedically, but it is a lot of incidents to happen in one night, and it's like,
It's a lot. The comedy of
yeah,
errors.
yeah, and I think doesn't Sandy come by too?
Yes.
Is that
Later on, Sanity comes by,
yeah,
banging on their door, and
yeah,
yeah, that's the point where, like, I think I think at that point, like, he's like, "Oh, no, I'm in the shower," and like,
yeah, and he's trying to get out of his female drag really fast so they can open the door, and yeah,
it's a whole lot. It all comes crashing down in one night.
yeah. And by the way, right after John Van Horn leaves, Bill Murray has another one of the funniest lines in the movie where he just goes, "You slut." So funny. So funny.
Right. And yeah, then I think after that, like, that's where, like, Mike and Sandy have, like, a real heart to heart, and like,
Hmm.
he's honest with her and saying, "I'm in love with another woman," and of
Yeah.
course, she kind of doesn't take it very well.
Yeah.
Um, but it's kind of trying to show that he's trying to be a better person, because I think he kind of realizes, oh, I see the way Ron treats Julie, and I'm
Right.
sort of treating Sandy kind of the
Well, like,
same
yeah,
way.
Michael even says earlier in the movie, he's like, I'm lying to her to like spare her feelings because I
Right.
know it would hurt her if she found out what was going on. And then, like, later in the movie, right before Julie takes Ron out to dump him, he's talking to Ron as Dorothy,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Ron says, like, almost word for word the same justification. He's like, well, I know it would hurt her, so that's why I lie to her to
Yeah.
spare her
I'm
feelings.
a victim, baby.
He's like, well, women come on to me, and
Yeah.
and I usually let them.
Yeah.
So he's really being a good guy, but
Exactly.
apparently the concept of saying no just never occurred to him.
But that would hurt them, John. Come
Yeah,
on. Don't you see?
it would hurt them, and he wouldn't get his dick wet that much.
Oh,
So,
God. Jonathan.
not my name.
I know. I say it for dramatic effect.
Okay,
Jonathan Aloysius Trumbull. How could you?
doubly not my name.
Again,
You
dramatic
got
effect.
1 out of 3.
Dramatic effect, John.
Not even the right letter for the middle initial.
Jonathan, uh, Aloysius. Yeah, I don't know it.
Yeah. Okay.
Jonathan Tiberius Trumbull.
I would take that one. I would take that one. Jonathan Tiberius Trumbull.
Tiberius Trumbull.
That has a ring.
Yeah, it's
That has
good.
a ring.
It's good.
Um,
Yeah. So basically, him and Sandy break up, but like, they say, "Can we can still be friends? You still do you still want to be part of the play?"
mhm.
And I think she said, like, "I'll still be part of the play, but like, kind of stay away from me for a while."
Yeah.
Because
Well, she says, like, I don't put up with this from friends, only from lovers.
yes,
But she says, I will still do the play because I am a professional. So she's trying to be the bigger person and
right,
still do the play. And, probably also she recognizes this is an opportunity for me
right.
and
No,
it's a gig.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Paycheck's a chip paycheck.
yeah.
But yeah, so like, things are coming to a head.
Hmm.
Michael can't really take any more of this. So on one
Yeah.
day of shooting, when they're shooting something, and apparently one of the editors fucked up one of the reels, so they're gonna have to shoot it live. Which
Yeah, they kind of set this up earlier in the movie where they say, like, oh, we're going to have to reshoot these 3 scenes because one of the editors fucked up the reel, so we have to reshoot these scenes, and the producer is like, it's either that or do it live, and that's kind of the setup for later in
right,
the movie. They're like, hey, one of these things for the episode that is airing today, it got fucked up, so we have to do the party scene live.
yeah, which I don't think I've ever heard of that being done before. So I was
I
like,
don't know if that's.
is that a
I mean,
thing?
it's a necessary contrivance for us to get to the climax of the movie because
All right,
I
good enough
mean,
for me.
otherwise, how could we get to that moment? I don't know.
Works for me. So they
I don't know. You know, maybe back in the olden days. I don't know if they were still doing live stuff for 1982. I think the movie recognizes it's a contrivance.
okay. All
You know,
right, I'll let
she's like our soon-to-be ex-editors fuck this up. You
okay.
know,
It's like, all right, I'll let this slide.
yeah,
Yeah. So, but before they shoot the scene, Dorothy goes to Julie's dressing room to apologize. He
hmm
bought her something for her daughter, and then
yeah,
Julie just basically said like, I can't, like, I don't think we should hang out anymore. I can't really see you anymore, just because I feel like I'd be leading you on. That
right.
wouldn't
She
be.
says, "I love you, but I can't love you."
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so sad.
yeah. So yeah, they're doing this big party scene, which is like sort of a tribute to Dorothy Michaels' character on the show, Emily Kimberly. So many names to remember because we got Dustin Hoffman, Michael Dorsey, Dorothy Michaels, and Emily Kimberly. We're like four letters,
Oh my god.
four levels deep.
So
He's a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
you're a dude who don't know what duty is.
um, so it's sort of like this tribute to Emily, and I guess it's supposed to be like a scene in the show, just saying like, hey, this character's going to be around for a while longer
Exactly.
because she's so popular, and it's like a party in tribute to Emily, and then Emily starts giving this speech, and then as Michael and Dorothy are wont to do, starts improvising.
Yeah, I think he catches Jessica Lange's Julie's eye, and then he
Yeah.
something comes over him, and then he
Yeah.
starts kind of riffing and improving
hmm
and making up this kind of cockamamie story out of thin air about how
Yeah.
she's not the person people think she is. This
Yeah.
is actually kind of she's like been at like since the first day she's gone to the hospital. She's been there to settle an old score, and then she
Right,
gives this
and he starts improvising this convoluted soap opera style backstory.
right, and then she slowly takes off her makeup to reveal that she is not Emily Kimberly.
Yeah,
She's
he's
actually
actually Edward Kimberly. Yeah, he whips off the wig, and that's he takes off the false eyelashes, and people are like, "Wait, what's going on?" And
yeah,
then yeah,
exactly.
and then when he finally whips off the wig, and he's obviously a dude,
Yeah, and
and every
he even has another southern accent for this character he just
he's such a
created.
method actor. Yes, I'm Edward Kimberly, the
The twin brother who
yeah.
took place to avenge the sister that took like it was killed at the hospital or took her.
Right, because I think the character of Emily Kimberly on the fake soap opera Port Charles had a backstory where she was at the hospital before, years before, and she's coming back or something like that. And and he kind of improvises this whole backstory to sort of justify it in the universe of the show,
Yeah,
but also reveal to everyone. And he's revealing it on national television because it's this big hit soap opera and it's the trendy thing right now because he's a big hit character on the show.
yeah. I
So
mean, the fact that he went to the length to have another southern accent for this character he just created, I was like, oh damn, he really is a good actor.
it's kind of hilarious.
It
Yeah.
really
He's like,
is.
I'm Edward Kimberly. And yeah, he's got this doofus accent and it's very, and we get to see, and of course, everybody who's not on the soap happens to be watching.
Oh yeah. Was it Sandy's watching?
Sandy's watching,
Uh,
Jeff is watching at home, Charles Durning is watching from his farmhouse, and we get to see all their reactions. We see Sandy just scream.
right. And
Charles Durning is about to take a bite out of the sandwich. He just drops the sandwich out of his hands and then still takes a bite of his empty
yeah,
hands.
and Jeff is watching, and he just says, "Now that is one nutty hospital."
And just in that wonderful deadpan Bill Murray way. And it's one of the funniest moments in the movie. I mean, Bill Murray has at least three just laugh out loud lines. And it's all the funnier because they were probably improv. I
He's
mean, just
good. He's very
Bill Murray is at the height of his powers in this
yes,
movie, man.
exactly.
He's not the biggest part, but he just comes in, fucking kills, and then just disappears until it's time for him to fucking kill again.
My man.
And apparently they shot most of his stuff towards the end of the movie because like Sidney Pollack wanted most of the movie in the can before he brought Bill Murray in.
That's actually pretty smart.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he's great, but he's also a bit of a loose cannon. So,
He could go off in a lot of wild directions.
oh,
Yeah,
he's the wildest of wild cards.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're not even certain he's going to show up on set half the time.
Yeah,
So,
it's like he might be here, he might not.
and George Gaines has a killer line after the big reveal too on the show because he's been led to believe that Dorothy is in a romantic relationship with Jeff. That's how he kind of justifies not starting anything with resisting John Van Dorn's advances, and he just goes, "Does Jeff know?" Just he's so solemn and so serious, and it's hilarious.
It's, but of course, Julie sees this. Of course, she walks right up to Michael, punches him
Hmm.
right in the stomach,
Yeah,
and
and
takes
walks off,
and walks off.
and
Uh,
presumably he's fired from the show. I don't think it's ever outright stated, but
yeah, they never really say what the fallout was from that.
I mean, we see the producer. She just goes, "Son of a bitch," and she just sort of quietly is like, kind of almost admiring the cleverness and the fact that she's been duped for weeks. And Dabney Coleman is immediately like, "I knew there was a reason she didn't like me,"
I knew it. I'm still awesome.
which is so hilarious. He's not learned a damn thing,
Nope, not at all.
which is hilarious. I mean, you want at least one character to be an unredeemable jerk.
And that
Um,
character is Dabney Coleman.
it is 9 times out of 10 going to be Dabney Coleman.
Absolutely. So yeah, so then we cut to Syracuse. We see that they got the money to put on the play.
Yeah,
And
there's the coming soon poster. Yeah,
yeah, then we cut to the bar that Julie's dad Les hangs out in, and we see
yeah. It's presumably weeks or maybe a few months later.
it's been a while, yeah. And then we
Yeah,
see Michael's up there too, meeting him at the
yeah,
bar
as himself.
as himself, because he knows where to meet him because like when he was
They mentioned it
they
earlier.
mentioned
Yeah,
it earlier, and
yeah.
he goes there to sort of give back the ring.
Most everything that this movie does, it sets up very well.
Yeah, I would say so.
Hmm.
And yeah,
I mean, especially when you consider the sheer number of writers they had in this, it's a much more coherent screenplay than you would expect.
yeah, like I've seen movies where they're two totally different screenwriters, and it's you
Right.
can tell, like you
Yes.
can tell
Yeah.
when it has. But like something
Yeah.
like this, it's
But this doesn't feel as Frankenstein together as you might expect.
no, no,
So
no, not at
yeah,
all.
good job.
Yeah, so so he goes to her dad, and the dad's like, yeah, the only reason you're still living is because I never kissed you.
Yeah,
And
he like Michael tries to hand back the ring, and Charles Durning is like, outside, give it back to me outside. And honestly, look, Charles Durning is such a darling character in this movie. I half wanted Dorothy to accept the proposal, man. I'm
I
like,
kind of did
when
too.
when Charles Durning asks you to marry him, you fucking marry him.
Man, I got man was in the
Man's a
Muppet movie.
national treasure.
Man was in the Muppet movie. Come on.
He was in Dog Day Afternoon. He was, I mean,
I gotta
good God, he's
I gotta watch Dog Day Afternoon again. I saw that for the first time a couple years ago. It's fantastic.
amazing movie. Amazing
It
movie.
is fun.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. That movie,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
really
Based
good.
on a true story too,
True story.
and about a guy who was trying to raise the money for his lover's sex change operation.
Wild. It's
Yeah,
it's a wild
yeah.
story, and like yeah, Pacino does some amazing acting in it too.
Pacino, John Cazale, Lance Hendrickson pops up at the very end.
Woo.
Yeah,
Guys, watch Dog Day Afternoon. That shit rocks.
Dog Day Afternoon, amazing movie.
Hmm. But yeah, yeah. So at the end of the scene, like they've sort of mended fences because uh,
Yeah,
Julie's dad did admit that Dorothy was good company, and
yeah, and he says, I like how the conversation is scripted because it's scripted very matter of factly, and that's kind of how it would go if it was a real life conversation because he's like I think Michael, he's like, I thought you'd want the ring back, and uh Les, Charles Durning's character, says like, do you like him? And yeah, no, Michael says, I gave the chocolates you gave me to a girl, and
right.
Charles Durning goes, do you like them? Those chocolates? No, girls. and and that's a bit of a laugh line. And Michael just says, I think I love Julie. He's kind of confessing that.
Right.
And at one point, then he asks, does she ever talk about me? And Charles Durning just kind of shakes his head no.
Mm.
And he's like, okay, I got my work cut out for me. And uh, he mentions later when he's reuniting with Julie, like, oh yeah, we had a couple beers, we shot a game of pool, so he's kind of made amends with Les, which is
Yeah.
nice to see.
Yeah. So now he tries to make amends with Julie. Like he
Yeah.
meets her outside of the studio one day, and of course she's very reluctant to talk to him. But
Hmm.
like he kind of lays it out all out in the lines, like, I only did this for the work. I didn't
Yeah.
mean to hurt anybody. Like, I
Yeah.
truly am sorry about all of it.
Yeah.
Um, and but he does.
And he has that great line. He says, I was a better man with you as a woman than I ever was with a woman as a man. You know what I mean? And she's just kind of confused at all the different levels of convolution there. And she's like, no, not really.
Yeah,
and 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 then she kind of warms up to him. She's like, do you think I could borrow that yellow dress?
yeah, yeah,
And
and
she's just giving him just enough of an opening, you
yeah,
know?
because I mean, yeah, it is a huge betrayal of and everything
Yeah.
of trust and everything that he's done.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
because he was lying to her from literally the moment they met.
yeah, yeah,
And
and like
and
she let her yes, babysit her child.
yeah, true. That's a good point.
Like,
That's an excellent point.
so yeah, there's a whole lot of I let this man kind of into the
Into
most,
my life.
yeah, like
Yeah.
the most
And
intimate moments of my life, and like it was
I
all a lie.
slept in the same bed with this person, and
Yeah,
I did not know what gender and what what proclivity they actually were. I mean, and yeah, so you totally get where she feels so betrayed and so angry, and but she confesses like, I miss Dorothy, and Michael has another great line. He says, "You don't have to. She's right here," because he's like, all that was me.
right,
That was just the feminine side of me, I guess. Um,
right. So yeah, it does show that he has grown and matured as a person, and he's willing
mhm.
to sort of put in the work to earn back her trust.
Right,
And
right,
yeah, and then the movie just ends with the two of them walking down the sidewalk together while Stephen
hmm,
Bishop plays in the background.
yes.
It might be you all of.
Again, if you needed like a little sappy ballady song to end your movie with in the early 1980s, Stephen Bishop, he's the guy you call.
Yeah, I just remember hearing that song all the time on like Light FM and the soft rock stations.
Yeah, yeah, and Stephen Bishop, if in case you don't remember, didn't he also write the song that's at the end of Arthur, the Moon in New York City?
Oh,
Isn't that him too?
I thought that was Christopher Cross.
Yeah, it is Christopher Cross. You're right. Okay,
Yeah.
but it's that similar sort of style. But Stephen Bishop, I know I'm right about this. He's the guy in Animal House who Belushi smashes his guitar.
Oh wow, really?
Hmm.
Oh nice.
Yeah, he's I gave my love a cherry. That's Stephen Bishop.
Oh shit! Wow,
Hmm.
that's fantastic. I didn't know. All right, yeah. Stephen Bishop. He also did "On and On." That's like another big his song of his.
Okay. Oh yeah,
On and
that sounds
on,
vaguely familiar.
on. I don't know. When it comes to yacht rock, I know my shit.
Yeah, yeah, you really do.
But yeah, and that's the movie. Tootsie. I enjoy this movie. It's a really charming, funny movie. I
Hmm.
don't know if it could come out in today's times, but
I don't think you could do it in the same way today, but I think it holds up remarkably well. Um,
yeah, I'd agree.
there's not much in it that makes me cringe looking at it from a 2024 perspective. And honestly, I try really hard to always look at things in the context of their time.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, I just don't think it's fair to judge past stuff by today's standards.
Yeah, it's like like that old Patton Oswalt joke where
Hmm.
he went to the movies and there was like an old western film, and it was like one of the cowboys was kind of being mean to the female, this
Hmm.
female cowhand or whatever, and some woman in the audience was like, "Oh, okay, I guess this is all okay. I guess the cowboys can just be mean to the women and have them stay in the kitchen," and and then I think Patton Oswalt, yeah, that's how it was back in the day. It's not pleasant, but that's how they acted and behaved. It wasn't all PC. or anything
I
like
don't think I know this Patton Oswalt joke.
that. You don't remember that one?
Do you know which one of his albums or specials it's
I
from?
gotta look it up. I know it's pretty old. It's pretty
Okay,
old school.
okay.
I'll find it.
Because
Don't worry.
I've got like most all his albums. I've missed like a couple of the more recent ones, but I don't remember hearing that. And I've listened. I have listened to my share of Werewolves and Lollipops, and My Weakness is Strong.
Oh, my man.
Darren Patterson.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not here to test you, homie. I just know that
Do not disparage my Patton Oswalt fandom,
you
sir. Do not.
you will lose.
Do not. I watched the 1% Club
Oh, how was
this
that?
week. It's good. It's good. It's
Okay.
fun.
All right, I'll give it a look. See.
Yeah, it's worth seeing. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's premiering on Fox in early June.
All right, fantastic. And yeah, I mean, as far as this movie goes, yeah, I enjoyed it. You'd have to. It's a movie you kind of have to. It's a product of its time, but I do
Hmm.
think it does have some really good themes about male female relationships and
Yeah,
how we really need to sort of just have a little bit more empathy and see things from the other person's perspectives and
yeah,
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 and just try to hopefully if we do that maybe we could find a nice way to coexist in this crazy world of ours.
yeah, yeah. Our friend Minette Moratti on Twitter, she commented. She says, "Love the movie as a comedy for its time. For its time is in all caps.
Mhm.
But reading stuff about the LGBT representation issues when it was adapted into a musical was eye opening about how much its flaws are still there." And then she links to a couple pieces about it, but it's really more about the musical adaptation. They made it into a Broadway musical a few years back with Santino Fontana
Oh, okay.
in the part of Michael and Dorothy. And I never got to see the show. Um, it didn't stay around for too long. I don't remember how many performances it did or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't really remember it
I
overall.
looked it up on Wikipedia and I read through like the description of the first act, and the main difference I think is I believe it's taking place in the present day, uh, and he's in a Broadway musical instead of a TV soap opera.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that's the big difference. Um, but yeah, I read the pieces that Manette linked to, but it was it's a lot about gender politics and about the uh, you know both of these pieces were down on it because they felt like it was misogynistic and transphobic in places, and honestly, I don't know if I uh, entirely agree with that.
Okay. Wait, so you're talking
Um,
about the musical adaptation or the
yeah,
or the
the criticism,
movie?
and I said to Minette, I was like, I don't know how much I can talk about this because I haven't seen the musical, so I don't really feel qualified to comment on it. But yeah, also I don't feel like I don't think that this was ever a story about somebody discovering his feminine side or something like that. I know like they recently did a Broadway version of Some Like It Hot,
Right.
and and I know that Amber Ruffin from Late Night with Seth Meyers, she co-wrote the book of it,
Oh, interesting.
and I think that they were still doing it as a period piece. I think it was still somewhere in the 30s or something, but they changed some things in it, and I know that the twist they have, and spoilers, I suppose, is at the end of the Broadway show. One of the guys realizes that he likes dressing up as a woman,
Oh,
or
okay.
that he's actually like trans in his heart, or that he's like female in his heart. I haven't seen that musical either. I haven't been able to get to see Broadway musicals for quite
Yeah.
some time.
All right.
So
But somebody has an awakening, as it were.
yes, exactly. And they didn't do that in Tootsie. And I feel like maybe they were feeling like it should have done it in Tootsie the musical or something. I don't know. I don't know if I entirely understand their criticisms
Okay.
of the show.
All right. Well, fair enough. Well, maybe later on down the line we could find somebody that can maybe break it down on a future episode or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, it's definitely food for thought. Like yeah, listeners, if you want to go give it a look, see, and read and kind of think for yourself, like what are your thoughts on the Tootsie musical? Yeah,
Yeah.
read it. I believe it's at like out.com or something, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
I believe it's on out.com. Those two articles that Manette.
Oh, I'm sorry. I scrolled away from where it was. because I thought we were done talking about that.
Okay. Yeah. No. No.
So
No. It's okay.
one is from AmericanTheater.org and the other one is from Out.com.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So give them a look see and see what you think. But I mean, as far as the movie goes, I would say them. Yeah, I would say I would agree with you. I like there aren't too many parts that made me cringe super hard, and it's
No, I mean,
still
like nobody's like, there's not like that moment in Teen Wolf where it's like, hey, dude, are you a F slur?
oh yeah.
One of my favorite comedians, Eugene Merman, he had a great joke in his act ages ago about how Michael J. Fox is like, no, 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 don't worry, I'm not gay. I'm just a wolf. I'm just a magical creature that will eat you. and he and Eugene would say like, I think that shows how much progress we've made. That now it's better to be gay than to be a werewolf. But in 1985, not so much.
Strides
Um,
have been made. We did it, people. We
I mean, yeah, I guess you can look at the movie in the light of, oh, it's a man dressing up as a woman. Isn't that funny? Ha 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 ha. But
yeah, but I think this doesn't really like again, like I like Dorothy is never really the butt of the joke. I feel like I think they took
right.
great, they made great strengths to make sure that she wasn't like the butt of the joke, and she was like there to actually
Mhm.
really empower sort of other women to sort of think
Yeah,
outside the box.
and I can see the criticism of like, oh, it's it's like a man mansplaining how hard it is to be a woman, and yeah, I kind of see that.
Yeah,
But also that's just what the story is. The story is about a heterosexual cisgender guy dressing up as a woman for a desperately needed job. I think it would be unrealistic to not have there be awkward moments in there and moments of humor in there. So
yeah, no,
I
absolutely.
mean that's just the movie that they were making.
Yeah,
So
like I mean, you could say, of course, like he at first he does it for a very selfish reason, just because no
yes.
one will hire me because I'm kind of a jerk. So instead of learning how to be less of a jerk and maybe more accommodating and compromise a little bit more, I'm just gonna dress up as a woman and take this job. And like he doesn't do that, but he in him, dressing up as a woman, he does kind of like you said, he becomes a better person throughout and
Yes.
becomes more understanding and more open and like just more like, oh, maybe the things I've done in the past haven't been great. And he become,
Yeah, I mean his
it's
consciousness is definitely raised because he sees how Ron acts as this unredemptive male chauvinist pig,
right.
and then he does realize like, oh, I don't want to be that. I shouldn't be that.
Yeah.
I need to do better. I need to put things right with Sandy and fess up and all that. And yeah, one of the reviews I saw on Letterboxd was they were like, yeah, Sandy's kind of done dirty by the end of this movie because we never get an apology to her or anything like that. Like the last time we see her in the movie is just her screaming at the revelation. Very funny moment, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That it could have I'll give it. It could have used that. Maybe a little bit more closure with her and Sandy.
but then again, maybe that would have been one apology scene too many.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
If there was a scene for everybody he had to apologize to, the whole movie would be like 5 hours or something.
that's true. That's true. That could have been the sequel, just him going around New York City apologizing.
Tootsie
Yeah,
2, the apology.
I do kind of wonder what happened to Michael Dorsey's career after this, because like it'd be a huge publicity, but he had to have been fired from the soap,
Yeah.
very possibly sued.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Fraud. Something, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it would be a big scandal. I'm trying to imagine if something like this had happened for real in 1982, and people would not react to it well, and that would he probably wouldn't. I mean, on one hand, maybe he could have job prospects because of it, but on the other hand, maybe he's even more reactive than when he started the movie,
Yeah. Like,
which is a weird thought.
yeah, that is one thing I'll say about this movie. It never really says what happened. Like I said, the fallout from that,
Yeah.
like, career wise, what happened to him. And
And I mean, and I'm not saying that the movie necessarily needs that because it's by that point it's just about the relationships
yeah.
and how does he repair these relationships. So I don't really need to know, but I guess I like the world of this movie enough that I'm interested in what might have happened next.
Yeah. No, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Tootsie, check it out, guys. It's
Tootsie.
it's on
It's really
Amazon.
good.
You can pay for it and rent it. It's around.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's
I got an interesting quote that I found on IMDb because I told you before how Hoffman was fighting a lot with Sidney Pollack, and apparently Hoffman is very like my way or the highway.
right.
And Terry Garr had a great quote here. She said about working with Dustin Hoffman, if you argue with him on something, he wants his way. Finally, if you say, all right, we'll do it your way, he'll say, no, I don't want to do it my way until you like doing it my
Oh
way.
God,
It's not enough to give in to him. You have to like what he wants to.
I don't.
So
I don't want you to take out the trash. I want you to want to taking out the trash.
pretty much. I mean, which that sounds infuriating to work with. I gotta say.
Yeah, like I hear that. It's like, this,
And if you know, and Dustin Hoffman and Sidney Pollack, they never worked together again after this.
oh,
So,
nice.
I mean, they turned out a classic movie, I think. But
Yeah, I'd say so.
wow,
Yeah, Tootsie, check it out, people.
Tootsie.
Absolutely. And that's our episode, guys. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. As always, you can follow us on the socials on Twitter, because we refuse to call it X, at SNL Nerds Show. And you can follow me on all the social media handles at Darren Credible, DARIN Credible.
And you can follow me on the social media at Trumbull Comic. That's TRUMBULL and the word comic. So that's where I am.
Very nice, very nice. And yeah, this is kicking off the summer. So next week, we're not quite sure what we're going to do, but
haven't decided yet. We got a little time.
Yeah.
We got a little time. If you have any suggestions, hit us up at the SNL Nerd Show on the Twitter sphere.
Yes.
And let us know what you want to see. If we haven't done it and if we can find it, we will very possibly do it.
Yes. And try to make sure it's good. Like, don't tell us to watch some horrible movie just to hear us suffer.
We'll watch a horrible movie once in a while, but yeah, to be 100% honest, if we watch too many horrible things too many weeks in a row, this gets really depressing.
Yeah, we get a little buggy.
Yeah,
you don't want that.
I remember there was one point last summer, I think it was, where I just kind of hit the wall. I was like, Darren, we got to watch something good next week. I don't care what it is; it just has to be good.
Yeah, like so. Let's steer us out of that pit of depression, people. Good movies. Pitch them.
Yeah,
we're here for you.
Good movies. We need escapism like everybody.
Indeed.
So, yeah. So send us some good movies. Our only requirement is it stars an SNL alum, and hopefully we can get our hands on it somehow, somewhere on streaming or somewhere at our local libraries.
Absolutely.
So, and I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's it.
Check us out on Non-Productive.com. You can contribute to our Patreon, help support the podcast that way. A really great way to support the podcast also is to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or the podcaster of your choice. That really helps us. It boosts us up in the algorithms and all that good stuff. Tell your friends if you enjoy it. Retweet us.
Yes, spread the word.
Talk about it. The signal boost.
Yes.
That's what we need.
Spread the word. Spread the good word.
We'd really like to grow the podcast some more. We're closing in on 300 episodes. We want to get more people listening. We think we're doing a good thing here. And we hope you think so too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll be back next week with something else cool. But until then, nerds out!
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.